Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it is a Sweden day. Not just a Sweden day, but it's Alla Helgons dag. Or All Saints Day. What is All Saints Day? Who knows? Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
It is the time of year when a lot of people spend an unusual amount of time thinking about death. In late October to early November, there are a number of holidays, like the famous Halloween, a day of ghosts, ghouls, and trick-or-treating and jack-o'-lanterns.
Speaking of which, before he continues, it's Halloween today. It'll be Halloween when this video gets posted, because I filmed it during the day on Halloween. Let me know what you're doing tonight, if you're doing anything tonight. What am I going to be doing tonight? Well, I'm by myself. My partner's gone away to London, so I'm at home alone on Halloween. So I'm probably going to watch a scary movie on my own. Probably that's what I'm going to do in my evening. You have to, though. It's Halloween. You have to watch a scary movie, right? And that's about it. But let me know what you're doing. Are you going to a party? I mean, it's the weekend and it's Halloween coming up, so today, so you might be going to a Halloween party during the weekend. Let me know in the comment section below. That sounds cool. Yeah, let me know.
There's also the very closely connected days of All Saints Day and its companion All Souls Day. These three all fall at around the same time, and the relationship and difference between them can be a little confusing to a lot of people. I think most of you know what Halloween is, and if you don't, I've made an episode previously about that, which you can check out. But how about those other ones, All Saints Day and All Souls Day? What are these holidays? Where do they come from? And how are they celebrated today? All Saints Day. And
his channel's called Let's Talk Religion. So he's very religious, but All Saints Day is a religious day. So I'd like to know, because I even though I did a video on Alla Helgons dag or 2 years ago. Oh my God, this is how old this channel is. 2 years ago, I did a video. Not last Halloween, the Halloween beforehand. But I can't remember what you do on Alla Helgons dag. So
All Souls Day are two interconnected holidays that take place in late fall, specifically in early November. They are, at their core, a Christian tradition. All Saints Day is a day of commemoration of the Christian saints and martyrs, a practice that has a long and interesting history, and which is, to complicate things further, very strongly connected to the holiday of Halloween. As such, we must begin our exploration of this topic in the ancient Celtic pagan festival known as Samhain. Celebrated in pre-Christian times and beginning on October 31st, this was a festival that marked the end of summer and the beginning of winter.
Right.
And at this point of transition in the calendar, it was thought that the veil between the world of the living and that of the dead was at its thinnest. This meant that one could more easily communicate with the dead and vice versa, and the festival seems to have very much revolved around this idea. We don't know all that much with certainty about pagan practices such as this, since most of our earliest sources come from second-hand Christian.
Do you know what's interesting? That so many Christian days, festivals, practices come from paganism. It comes from paganism. It's way before Christianity. These traditions and these practices were done before that religion, before religion, really, in Europe. That's really interesting, isn't it? And it was about communicating with the dead, speaking to the ancestors. Wow.
Fighters in the Middle Ages, but we do know that certain practices like the lighting of bonfires took place, as well as the general orientation and theme of this festival.
Wow. So they have bonfires as well. Oh my God, it's all come into place because on the 5th of November, I don't know if you know about this tradition in the UK, but on the 5th of November, so after Halloween's done, or All Saints Day, we actually light a bonfire. we light a massive bonfire and we burn a man. That's another story for another day. We burn this this basically like a scarecrow. We burn it. This is not about England. I'm not going to explain why we do that, but we have a massive bonfire on the 5th of November, and it's to do with something completely different from this pagan festival, but clearly it evolved out of this pagan festival. The same with Halloween. Crazy that, isn't it?
On the other hand, as a little religious movement called Christianity developed in its earliest period, they started also to have feast days commemorating and celebrating the saints and martyrs of the faith. This is thus a tradition that goes back to the very earliest days of Christianity. And when this little religion, which at this point had become the state religion of the largest empire in the world, started to spread to new lands through missionaries, there were different techniques used to convert the population in these new lands. And one of the most common and successful ways to do this has always been to meet people halfway. What I mean by this is that one would often take an already existing tradition or custom and give it new Christian meanings or Christian clothing, to Christianize customs already present in the local community. This, of course, makes it appear like conversion doesn't make one have to give up all of one's entire life and culture, and makes that process a lot more simple and...
That makes sense. Very clever of the Christians to try and convert people that were into pagan rituals and traditions by changing them and making them about the religion, really. They kind of made it up as they went along.
Appealing. One often quoted example of this is that Christmas, the celebration of Jesus' birth, was placed on December 25th in the Roman world, which was the same day that there was already an existing festival that celebrated the birth of the god Sol Invictus in the Roman Empire. This theory is widely rejected by scholars today, however, as the evidence doesn't really point in that direction anymore. But another example, one that seems a lot more likely, is that when the Christians came to the British Isles, the festival of celebrating the dead saints started to be celebrated specifically on November 1st, at the same time that the local custom of Samhain was already taking place. The connection to the world of the deceased in both of these traditions is a likely reason that the Christians chose to place the holiday at this specific time, in another attempt to appropriate local practices and incorporate them into Christianity rather than eradicate them completely. Thus, All Saints' Day as we know it was born, and eventually spread to other places in Europe and Western Christendom in general. Another name used for the holiday was All Hallows' Day, which means that the day before, on October 31st, was All Hallows' Eve, which is where we get the name Halloween.
Right.
And on the day after All Saints' Day, on November 2nd, is celebrated All Souls' Day, a festival where one commemorates the souls of those departed in a general sense, not just the saints as such, but every soul, every faithful soul, or any person who has died or passed away is commemorated on All Souls' Day.
I think that's a really nice day. And the lighting of the candles you guys do, so you do that on the 2nd then of November. I think that's just really nice to do. It's just such a nice thing to do.
November 2nd. This triad of days, All Hallows' Eve or Halloween, All Hallows or Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day, is sometimes together referred to as All Hallowtide. So as you might imagine, the connection and difference between these three somewhat separated days can appear complicated and confusing to some people. And while it is true that the festival of Halloween originally had its origins in the pagan festival of Samhain, aside from its place in the calendar, so taking place at the same time of year, there is very little left of Samhain in what we know as Halloween. In fact, most of the things that we associate with Halloween, different rituals and imagery and so on, actually comes from later Christian periods and the celebration of All Saints' Day. So, for example, trick-or-treating likely originates in a practice called souling, where groups of people would travel between houses and singing, asking for blessings or asking for prayers for the dead, as well as for objects like asking for apples or soul cakes, as it was known. And the
I did not know that's where that comes from. Trick-or-treating even came from that. Wow.
famous jack-o'-lantern, which is kind of the poster figure for Halloween, also has its origins in these practices, as people would often carry with them hollowed out turnip lanterns as they were going from house to house. So many of these traditions actually come from a post-Christian period rather than from the pre-Christian Samhain. In any case, Halloween and All Saints' Day / All Souls' Day are usually pretty clearly distinguished today. Halloween is a pop culture-infused celebration, sometimes associated with consumerism, while All Saints and Souls' Day is a solemn Christian day of commemoration. And these days are widely celebrated across Europe even today. However, they can look pretty different depending on where. For example, All Souls' Day is also often known as the Day of the Dead. And in Mexico, this has evolved into a very vibrant and unique tradition of its own, strongly flavored by local culture, as seen, for example, in the popular Pixar film Coco. But in a place like Sweden, which is where I'm from, the celebration of these holidays looks quite different, and it can also tell us a lot about how Swedes relate to religion and secularism. In Sweden, both Halloween and All Saints' Day are widely celebrated by people, but they are very clearly distinguished from each other most of the time.
Because one's religious and one is just... I guess Halloween is commercial, like he said.
Halloween takes place on October 31st, like it always does in most places, but All Saints' Day does not actually take place on the traditional date of November 1st. Instead, since the 1950s, All Saints' Day actually takes place on the first Saturday in November. This means that every few years, the dating of these holidays do line up in the traditional way. So if Halloween falls on a Friday, on October 31st, that means that All Saints' Day will fall tomorrow. The next day, on Saturday, November 1st. But if
which is this year. This year, that's how it falls. All right, I didn't know it was the first Saturday. Oh, that's perfect. Because I actually thought it was always on November the 1st. But it's not, it's the first Saturday. But this year, it falls that way. Perfect.
Halloween falls on a Sunday, like this year. That means that All Saints' Day is celebrated almost a full week later, on November 7th, on the Saturday.
Not this year.
It's weird, but that's how we do it over here. And in Sweden, the connected holiday of All Souls' Day, supposed to take place on November 2nd, kind of isn't really a thing. The Church of Sweden does recognize it as an official day of commemoration, but for the regular Swede, All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day are kind of mashed together.
Right.
In fact, what we call All Saints' Day in Sweden is actually more akin to All Souls' Day in practice.
Right.
Now, Sweden is quite a secularized country. It is often ranked among the most secularized in the world, and this is definitely true to some degree. Relatively few Swedes identify with a particular religious denomination and are often only...
Let me know in the comment section. I don't know if you guys have ever let me know. Let me know if you're religious. Let me know if you subscribe to a religion. Because I want to know how many of my subscribers are Christian. How many of my subscribers are Muslim. Let me know how many of you are of other religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, all the other religions. I'm quite interested to know. I don't know if I've got that many, but I might do. I may do. If I do, let me know. And let me know if you're celebrating this holiday.
Very mildly engaged in religious questions. But as scholarship has shown, like that by scholar of religions David Turfjell, this does not mean that people don't believe in a divine higher power, for example, or that they have abandoned religious traditions. Not at all, in fact. Christian holidays like All Saints' Day, Christmas, or Easter are still very actively and passionately observed by many Swedes today, but are often drained of any outright connection to teachings or imagery from Christianity. Christmas is a big deal in Sweden, but to many, the birth of Jesus Christ isn't really that relevant or considered.
Yeah.
For most, the holiday is about gathering together as a family, eating certain foods, getting presents, and even watching Donald Duck on television. Much more so than it has anything to do with Christ. A term that has been coined to denote this kind of phenomenon is post-Christian. Many Swedes are so-called post-Christian in the sense that they have stopped identifying with the organized religion of Christianity as such, but still engage and participate in a culture that is infused with Christianity, take part in rituals that originate in the religion, or have certain emotional attachments to these things.
That's so interesting, like post-Christian. It's almost like you've gone full circle from being paganism before Christianity, transitioning into Christianity, and then transitioning out of Christianity to this post-Christian, but it's pretty much paganism again, isn't it? Because you're just doing the rituals like Alla Helgons dag and Christmas and like Easter, but it's not connected to Christ. So it's like you've become pagan again, because paganism was just rituals, gatherings of family and reflection and, thanking the earth, thanking Mother Nature for, thanking the universe, that sort of stuff. It was quite pagan. So it's like you were converted to Christianity and then now you've gone back to what you were initially, kind of. So that you strip the religious part out. I think the UK is exactly the same. We're going that direction as well. We're very post-Christian, but we're still a Christian nation because we still do the rituals. Like we still have a crown. We still have a crowning. What do you call a crowning? What's the ritual called? Oh my God! When we have our king and he gets crowned, coronation. We still have a coronation, and the coronation, I don't know if you saw King Charles, our king, his coronation that happened last year, but it was, the ritual was all there, the pageantry and the Christian, he's ordained by God and all that sort of stuff is still very much part of that tradition, even though we're not really a religious country, but that tradition is still there. Interesting.
Love our rituals and traditions, just don't get too religious about it. Exactly. All Saints' Day is the same, and that is what I mean when I say that to many Swedes, All Saints' Day is really All Souls' Day, because when All Saints' Day is celebrated, few ever think about the saints and martyrs of Christianity. Right. Ask any Swede and they will tell you that on All Saints' Day we simply remember those who have passed. Yeah. In other words, the more overtly Christian aspects of the holiday is downplayed in favor of a more general commemoration of the dead. On All Saints' Day, families will often gather together. Many will visit the graves of loved ones who have passed, perhaps a grandmother or a father. Candles are lit and placed by their graves, and the day is spent trying to remember and appreciate those loved ones who have moved on. In Stockholm in particular, it's quite common to visit a large cemetery called Skogskyrkogården. Here, as well as in many other cemeteries, most of the graves are covered with candles, creating a kind of sea of lights in the darkness, at least beautiful. After the sun has set, which is quite a beautiful sight. Even if you don't have a loved one in this cemetery in particular, it has become a local custom of sorts to visit on this day, to walk around looking at the lights and the graves. It's a quite solemn atmosphere, one where people will try to give an extra thought to those who have passed, as well as mortality in general, a kind of collective memento mori. As we saw, to many people, this has little to do with Christianity, but instead takes the form of a more universal and secular day of commemorating the dead, even though the tradition itself clearly does come from a Christian background. Of course,
I think it's a beautiful thing that you've converted it. I don't think we don't commemorate the dead like that as a nation, and I think it would be really awesome if we did do what you do in Sweden. We don't have that. Probably if you go to a church somewhere in the UK, they probably do practice this, but I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. It just seems like it's a bigger deal in Sweden than it would be in the UK.
Church and those active in it will emphasize it on more clearly Christian grounds and often have services and vigils during these days in a more quote-unquote traditional way. But the varied ways that this fascinating tradition is celebrated can really show us how religions always impact and are impacted by different local contexts, but can also give us a look into the way that religion and secularism function and are in conversation with each other in contemporary post-Christian Sweden. I hope those celebrating have a meaningful All Saints and All Souls Day, and that we are blessed by the memories of those who are not with us anymore. I'll see you next time.
That was lovely of him to say. That's very lovely of him to say. I do too as well. If you are celebrating All Saints Day and during this time of year you're thinking about your loved ones that have passed away, I hope you have a yeah, like you said, a very meaningful, very calm and cathartic. I like the word cathartic because it's like therapy, isn't it? Like lighting a candle and thinking about people that have passed away and thinking about the positive memories and how you remember them. I think that is very cathartic. It is therapy. We do miss people that have passed away. I miss people in my life that have passed away, and I think about them all the time. So I think having a day in a year where you light a candle and you think about that person, I think is special. I think that's beautiful. I think I should do it myself. I was just thinking about it just now. I'm like, I've got candles. I'll light a candle and think about my grandma or like someone who's passed away in my life, my auntie, and just think about them and just think about the positive memories of that person. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful tradition, and I hope that Sweden, you guys continue to uphold and to continue to practice that tradition. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It's a great day to just remember those people that you've lost. So yeah, guys, this is lovely. Good to learn more about what All Saints Day is about, like more so what Alla Helgons Dag is. And I didn't know that All Saints Day and All Souls Day is basically combined for you into one day. I didn't know that, and I didn't know it was the Saturday, the first Saturday of November, which is tomorrow, which is great. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a happy Halloween. If you're going trick-or-treating, if you're going to a party, I hope you have a beautiful All Saints Day tomorrow. And until the next one, I'll see you very soon.